There are so many ways in which our society is becoming increasingly disconnected from nature, from each other, and from ourselves. Whether it's the internet decreasing our attention spans and our sense of empathy, or because media and marketing feeds our brains with false narratives of what's normal, division and prejudice continue to plague us. The fact is, there's no such thing as normal, and the longer we stay disconnected, the more our minds remain closed to the things we may have never known could bring us joy and fulfillment. Which is why I am so excited to share my conversation with Adrienne Patrick, a neurodiverse former school teacher who spent much of her life terrified of snakes, who is now on a mission to not only share her love of them with others, but is creating an entire business around reconnecting humans with themselves, others, and the natural world through tactile experiences with snakes, nature, and art. If that sounds interesting to you, then stick around. Let's slither on into it. As cheesy as it may sound to reference a Kevin Costner movie from the 80s, the famous quote, "If you build it, they will come," can actually be a really powerful motivator. And Adrienne is certainly building something special that will bring people and snakes together and remind anyone who participates that all beings are innately worthy of love and respect. After decades educating both children and adults from diverse backgrounds and developmental abilities, her business, On Nature, has several components, all of which I found absolutely inspiring and relatable. Without spoiling all of it, I'll just say that some of that business is focused on connecting more neurodiverse people with snakes because of how these animals can help them feel comforted and better understood. But it also works to bring both neurodiverse and neurotypical people together to break down walls and challenge stereotypes, using creativity as a means of reflecting on themselves and the world around them. Adrienne shares how her world completely changed when she discovered that snakes were not the monsters she'd been led to believe, and how powerful it can be to have something you thought was true your whole life be disproved. She shares how snakes help her with aspects of her neurodiversity, but also how she uses the way her brain functions to give them the best care possible, as well as a tool to develop her business in a way that's healthy and productive for her. I'll leave it there for now so we can get to the interview and let Adrienne speak for herself. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. If so, please make sure you give the video a like, share it with anyone you think might benefit from it, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss more content that promotes mental health awareness and the emotional support we get when we are mindful and caring for snakes. Hi, Adrienne. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. Yeah.
I would love it if you could introduce yourself briefly and tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Adrienne, and I received, we'll just call it my neurodivergent diagnosis in a couple different areas. I think it was 2 years ago now. Time is such a weird thing. I got my diagnosis because my daughter had just been diagnosed. And as I read about what neurodivergencies look like in women and girls, I was like, wait, not everybody's brain works like that? Like that's because I do all those things. And that's not what everybody is frantically trying to do inside their head every day. And so that's what led me to pursue my own diagnoses. And they have been sometimes confining, but mostly freeing. So I've been a teacher by trade and training, I guess, for on and off for like 15 years now in different capacities: public school, private school, homeschool, community education. And even before I was a teacher, I was a dietitian, and a huge part of that is educating your patients. So that it's just kind of what I do. And so over the past few years, I've also been reconnecting with nature and art. I've read a lot of Brene Brown books, and she talks a lot about how art helps people heal from shame, because it opens us up to vulnerability. And that vulnerability helps us heal. So I really wanted to make that a part of my life. And I truly believe our healing is hidden in nature, like hidden, because it's so obvious and it's so there, yet we so often avoid it. And so as I started venturing more and more into those, I started being more willing to venture into things that aren't as, I don't want to say accepted by our society. It's not like I was going out and doing things, you know what I mean? But it wasn't doing things that are less common, I guess. So I had previously been terrified of snakes. I thought they were lurking around every corner, just waiting to kill me. Like, just, just kind of like, come near me. I'm just waiting, because that's the vibe we've been given about these animals through religion and media, TV, all of that. That's what we've been sold. I didn't know any better than to believe it. And so I found this YouTube channel, don't know how, and it was called Florida's Wildest. And they had rescued a ball python from a park. Somebody had just abandoned their pet in a park, and they found this ball python. It was covered in ticks. I mean, ticks everywhere. And I just watched them like pick these ticks off one at a time. And of course, the snake wasn't feeling well, so I get that. And she was cooler, like colder, so she wasn't moving as much. But still, this was nowhere near the experience I thought a snake experience would be like. And then I moved over to a snake discovery video that they did about if a snake bites you, different ways to get the snake to release. Emily did let one of the snakes bite her, and she's just standing there talking, having this whole conversation, and like, well, maybe I'll try this. Like, just like here's Emily starting the video. Here's Emily being bitten by a snake. It's the same, right? It was just seamless. There was no like, or anything. It was just completely seamless. And I was like, wait, where's you're not mauled to death. Like what, I don't. And so the more I watched the videos, the more I realized that snakes are not what we've always been led to believe that they are. And that was huge for me. And I think there are a lot of animals, including people, that have been misunderstood, unappreciated, and ostracized because of a false understanding of how they behave and how they treat people. And to me, that's part of what spoke to me, that injustice piece of pushing things out that we don't understand, or that we have deemed as ugly, or for whatever reason, snakes, native plants, people who make, have different style choices, whatever the case may be. We put some people on the outside and some people and some things on the inside. And so the more I got to know snakes, the more I realized they are beautiful, wonderful, predictable, necessary pieces of our ecosystems. And if we can do it right and we can do it well, they can also be a wonderful part of our homes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I, a lot of people have said that it's that sense of otherness, in themselves that they recognize in these animals that make them feel connected to them. I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling as well. I know it's been at the top of all of the answers that I've gotten in the survey, percentage wise, of the amount of people that have said outcasts, no outcasts. They recognize that they themselves have been looked at poorly or treated as other than not normal, feeling ostracized, and then seeing these animals that are not what people think they are, and feeling like, hey, I can relate to you. It's a really, really beautiful thing. And I hadn't even thought of that much consciously until I started investigating this whole connection between neurodiversity and reptiles. I think I knew because I've always felt weird. I've always been a weirdo. I think I did connect to having a snake as being weird, and I'm weird, and that's cool. But this is a different level, I think, because it wasn't to me about feeling pushed out. It was, I'm different. This is a little bit more poignant, I think. People treat people poorly because they don't understand them. It's really unfortunate, but it's beautiful to hear people who have been maligned feel like they have a connection and feel good about that, and then connect with each other over that. I think that's really, really beautiful. So you were afraid of snakes. How many snakes do you have now?
7.
What species?
Well, we have a Kenyan sand boa, a hognose, a Mexican black king snake, 3 ball pythons, and then we just adopted from Snake Discovery a Hog Island boa.
Those are gorgeous.
Yes,
gorgeous
she is
animals.
absolutely beautiful. Hog Island boas and super dwarf reticulated pythons are my favorites. They're my pick. So I happened to be on Facebook and I saw that she was available, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
What about these animals do you find helps your neurodiversity? And if you're willing to speak about it, your kids, do they interact with them, and does it help them?
And I'm kind of piecing it together in my head right now while we're talking. I think there's something relieving, relaxing about having an animal that can't love you back in the way we are used to something loving us back. Like, I am my dog's emotional support animal, not the other way around. But for these snakes, I love the fact that I am just serving them with no focus on getting anything in return. I love being their trusted tree, the person that they are familiar enough with to do their natural behaviors in their presence. To me, that's huge. I also don't have to mask and try and be any certain way in front of them. Even with my dog, sometimes I get more excited than maybe I'm feeling so that they feel loved. And I don't have to do that with a reptile. They don't even want that. I can just be. And I think that's huge. With my snakes, I can just be.
I completely relate to the dog thing. Like, you get yourself like, hey,
Right.
even if you don't feel like it. And sometimes that can actually lead you to feel better. Sometimes putting on a smile ends up leading to a real smile. Sometimes it doesn't, and it feels horrible. And then I also agree with the not needing to mask around the snakes. And what I find is that I end up feeling joyful after that. Like, it brings me to joy, and it brings me to a better feeling because I didn't start off feeling like I had to.
Yes. And I was also thinking how, again, our society likes to define things, and things need to look or be a certain way. And there are different ways to experience and show joy, right? Like, I understand that not everybody's going to find handling snakes joyful. I know a lot of people are going to think, I need to be standing and wooing to be happy. But I can just sit and absorb these moments with these animals and be joyful. And it may not be plastered all over my face like a billboard, but I am still joyful.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Just a quick reminder that there is more to snake therapy than the YouTube channel. We have an amazing Discord server where snake lovers can share experiences, get advice, support, and community. There's also Patreon, where you can get additional content and get some fun benefits, all while supporting the channel and the snake therapy mission. For example, we have our first Patron and Snakes Zoom parties coming up in a couple of weeks, which will become a recurring event and a way to share and connect with more people who share the values of giving the best we possibly can to our snakes and in nurturing each other in all the ways our brains are unique and special. It also helps me immensely as I pour a lot of time and effort into making every single episode. So I hope to meet you and your snake in a Zoom sometime. And that's all. Back to the show.
So you mentioned they are also great for my sensory issues. I'd love to talk about that a little bit because that's something I haven't yet explored in an episode, but it's a very, very common answer. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, they don't bark. So that's wonderful. I enjoy that quite a bit. They don't touch me with their nose or lick me, which I get is like, I know it's like, oh, but also I can't get that feeling wiped away. Like I can feel that for a while and I can't make it go away. And they're not gonna jump on me or scratch me or anything like that. And so I really just appreciate the lack of sound and the lack of licking. It's just really nice.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah, especially when I'm taking care of a disgusting stray dog that's covered in gross stuff. I'm just like, ah.
Oh gosh, I know that's yeah. My poor husband. I'll be like our dogs will still sometimes poop on the floor.
Oh no.
You know, and you'll be like, what? But it's like if I pick that up, I can't unfeel that. Like that feeling just, oh man.
What about cleaning the snake enclosures?
It's different. It's a different texture, I guess. It's not,
Yeah.
And normally you don't find it right away, so it's a different temperature. It's just not quite as invasive of a thing.
Right. That makes sense. So one more thing about your keeping and your husbandry I wanted to talk about, and then I wanted to move on to something else.
Okay.
You said that you needed snakes of your own. We quickly went from 0 to 6. It was hard to stop, but the way we care for our snakes is expensive, so that has slowed down. And I really appreciated that. And I would love it if you talked about it just a little bit.
Right now, we keep our animals in a minimum of the front is at least as long as the snake is. And then I think for the most part, the rest of them are 2 feet deep. And we do bioactives in all of them, mostly for just ease on our part. But then we want to provide them climbing opportunities for those where it's appropriate inside their enclosures. So that's a driftwood or other sorts of bark or sticks and that sort of thing. We also, we bought them a cat tree so that they could come out and climb. We have one ball python that if he knows we're out, he's like, okay, where's my climbing tree? He's ready to come out and use it. If there are necessary problems, we do take them to the doctor and things like that. So because of that, because of the larger size of the enclosures and the amount of substrate that needs to go in them and the cleanup crew, that adds up more than other husbandry options. So
it's very common for people with ADHD, and in general in the reptile hobby, for people to collect as many as they can. And especially with ADHD, it's like a dopamine hit every time you get a new one. It's like, ooh, I want another one. I want another one. I want another. And I feel like that ends up leading to subpar keeping, because the more you have, the less you have energy and time and money to give.
Yes.
So I really appreciate when people acknowledge that and acknowledge where their limits are especially when you have something like ADHD that you are constantly seeking dopamine hits. That is part of how your brain works.
I kind of try and hack into my personal system as best I can. And I don't want to use the word exploit because that sounds negative, but I will use the way my brain works. Like, for example, yes, I would have wanted to have collected every single snake on the planet, but I'm also a little neurotic and a worrier, right? So I'm sure there's a healthier way to do this. I'm not recommending this, but I leaned into kind of that worrier, neurotic, wanting to do things the right way so that I could cap things because they needed to be capped. And it was like, okay, we can't keep any more right now and keep them well. So we can't keep anymore. So
yeah. And I mean, in the end, especially if you're an empathetic, person who has anxiety as well, and you care a lot about the animals, like it, instead of helping your anxiety, too many can actually contribute to anxiety because you're like, I'm not doing enough. Oh God, I'm starting to worry about their welfare. And that's where I got to the point where I was like, okay, I need a line here. So I can definitely relate to that. Well, I'd love to talk about this amazing project that you are working on.
Yeah, so I've started a business, and the umbrella business is called Nature, AWE semicolon nature. And that is because I don't know if you remember the standardized tests we used to take where you would do like something is to this as something else is to this. And I used to eat up those standardized tests because I needed somebody to tell me I was worthy, that I was good enough, that I was lovable. Like, look, I was the first one done, or I did really well. Like, please tell me I've reached some sort of a finish line, I guess. And so it kind of started out with awe is to nature as love is to me. Nature is deserving of our awe as I am deserving of love. Nature doesn't need to perform for us. I don't need to perform. Innately, we are worthy. But what I basically did was take different interest areas in my life and kind of put them in this business. With the way my brain works, this way I can focus on one thing for an extended amount of time if that's where my brain is and that's the time for it in the business, or I can kind of do little bits of different things. But part of that business, so one part is called cultivated collage. And it's just me doing art and projects, even though I am not great at it. I have no like formal training. I really enjoy doing it and growing in that way. First of all, collage is basically just a hot mess that somebody put together in a beautiful way, right? Like, and it was cultivated. They went and found the different pieces they wanted and they put it together to make something beautiful. And I feel that is true for us. And then there's the general on nature piece, which is nature journaling, just getting out in nature, beginning to live a more natural, less wasteful lifestyle. And then the third part is called fringe benefits. And that is where the reptiles come in. So a lot of people do like birthday parties and things like that. And I want to do that as well. Birthday parties, things at the library, different events like that, because if no one had been making these videos, I never would have found reptiles. That was not on my list. It was nowhere on the list. Through being a teacher, I have worked with kids with a wide range of backgrounds, struggles, disabilities, and that has always been my jam. That is where I like to be. I like to be in an environment where I can get to know kids and I can take the time I don't even know how to explain it.
Sounds like you want to make them feel recognized and seen.
Recognized and seen, but it's very, very individual. and I don't know if everybody's brain and body does this. I don't know, but I can typically pick up on behavior patterns. I can connect with kids from a lot of different backgrounds, and I can begin to tell when they're getting ready to have a certain behavior or when they need a certain support, or if we do this, this is probably how that's going to pan out. And so being able to bring snakes into this neurodivergent community of students, but also the neurodivergent community at large, I feel like reptiles make neurodivergent people feel more understood. I don't know what it is. It's like, oh, we're kind of the same, you know?
Part of it, I think, anyway, is that sense of otherness,
Of
and
otherness, yes.
relating in that sense of otherness.
Yes. And so to bring that in and offer that opportunity to kiddos, and creating that environment for people that don't want small talk. Does that make sense? I'd either rather not talk or talk about something that's important to me. And so being able to provide different ways to do that. I've talked with someone at one of our community colleges about doing something during the summer with reptiles and classes and things like that.
So have you done this already, or no?
No,
It's in the works.
I'm just in the planning process, and like Iris, the Hog Island boa, she's kind of the first. Like I really wanted at least one kind of wow animal before, and to most people, she's probably about 5 feet long. So for most people, that's like, what? It's a big snake. So once she is more settled, and we'll see how she does with handling and that sort of thing. Then I can start venturing out into the community more. I felt like I needed a wow snake, and then I need her to have some time to settle in before I do anything else. So I've already been talking with friends and their kids who are excited to meet the snakes and be able to do some events with the snakes. And a lot of times, even for birthday parties, if a neurodivergent kiddo, you kind of invite everybody, and it's just a great way to share the story of being on the fringe, in a way that can either bring everybody out into the fringe because it's awesome out here, or bring us all, you know what I mean? Or bring us all together inside, whichever, I don't care, but I want to, the kind of tagline for the business is reconnecting humans with themselves, others, and the natural world. I feel like as a society, we are extremely disconnected from everything, from nature, especially from our inner selves, just in every way. That's my goal, is to and I think that's another reason snakes are great for this, because they're not loud. So if your goal is to just bring people together in a calm environment, having an animal that is calm, that doesn't make a lot of noise, and that everyone kind of also needs to be calm for, so that you don't scare it or confuse it, I think that just provides a really good opportunity for people to reconnect. And then my hope is, or my plan, depending on the group, would be then to do an art activity afterwards, expressing their experience with the animal, whatever that might be. And you give more guidelines with kids than you do with adults, but that could be anything. And then I've also thought about them having them do some sort of art project before and after, but have it more related to feelings, and see how feelings change from the beginning to the end. So that's the beginning genesis of fringe benefits.
Wow, I really love that last bit right there, because personally, when I go, for example, when I go on Little Zoo gigs, whether or not we're working with special needs kids or not, it's really a one-off. Usually, we don't get the follow-up that much, and we don't get that arc. And I would love to see more of that, because I know it makes an impact. I mean, I can see it and feel it in the moment.
Yeah.
you know, and I've had parents contact me and say, oh my God, my kid is, you know, feels this now, or says this all the time now, or talks about snakes all the time. But an expression of that done in art that is tangible. Oh, that's just, oh, I'm so fascinated. And I really look forward to seeing what happens with that.
Yeah. And it can look in so many different ways. It can be, you know, so many different mediums. And you can even take typical stuff and use it in a different way. Like, here's construction paper. Pretend it's clay and try and make how you felt while you were watching the snakes, whatever the case may be, you know, kind of given an extra challenge of, we're going to use this, but we're going to use it in a different way. And I love what you said. I would love to be able to, and now you've got me thinking, like multi-day classes is what I'm trying to say, so that I can see these people, whether it's adults or children, more than once, and give them even more chance to grow and understand and connect with themselves. And
yeah, I think that would be really powerful to see over the course of, even if it was 3 days,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
no matter what, there's going to be some kind of shift.
yes,
And to be able to come out of that and maybe, you know, later down the line, you have that to show for the next group and kind of have examples of the power of what this does and how it affects people, would be a way to get more people involved. I think this is wonderful. Are you still teaching actively?
no,
No. So you're just focusing on this and trying to move it forward. That is so inspiring.
yeah, it's, I don't know, am I excited, am I delusional, who's to say, but we're having fun with it. And part of what I love about this is I want people to experience the calm that I have experienced from learning that I love snakes, from being in nature, from doing art. So I can't do this in a way, I can't, you know, build my business and meet people, all that in a way that is stressful, because that will come out in what I am doing and completely like, people will feel it and it will defeat the purpose. So I'm allowing myself to do this in a way that doesn't stress me out. I get excited a lot. Like, sometimes I'll wake up at 5:30 in the morning excited about some new idea I have. And then sometimes I have trouble sleeping, but so far I'm not really stressed by anything. And so I'm just kind of moving forward and building as we go.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I feel that way too sometimes. I get when I get ideas in my head about what's next for the channel, or who
Yes.
I'm wanting to talk to, or the person that I talked to just gave me this idea, and I wake up like so excited.
And your brain has to like flesh it out. It's like, I can't sleep unless I've at least made sense of it.
Right.
Well, on a side note for all of that, I want to buy land, and I want to eventually have my own little mini snake reptile. I wouldn't even call it a zoo. I want people to be able to come to me. I don't want to have to transport my snakes everywhere. And I want to give them a chance to just come out of their enclosure if they want to. So that would be done better in one location. And I want to have a petting zoo, because why not? But I want to, on this land, are you familiar with earthship homes? So they are built underground using upcycled materials. Old tires is the foundation, and then the front is all glass to help maintain temperature and allow you to grow plants and food all year long. And then a few years ago, I was working on designing different shipping container homes, because this is just what my brain does for fun. I'm not an architect. I'm not anything. but I've been working on things like this for 30 years. And so after doing some research on Earthship homes, I think it would need to be modified for the climate zone that I live in. And so now I've been working on shipping container Earthship homes and designing what that would look like. And now I'm trying to figure out how to use, like, how to kind of do radiant heat floors, but instead of just radiant heat where electricity is producing the radiant heat, can I use radiant heat from the windows that are all across the front? It's a whole thing in my brain that just, if I wake up with a new piece of an idea to that, like it's over.
Sounds like fun hyper focus. Well, we're going to have to check back in with each other because my dream is also to have a brick and mortar snake sanctuary, basically snake therapy, serpent sanctuary, to have a space where people can come to learn about the animals. They can have a safe space to interact with the animals in a therapeutic environment, and have also all the information about local species, what to do if they see these snakes in the wild, that kind of thing, as well as husbandry information. And so I'm on that train too. It's a big dream. Where in the country are you located?
Kansas City area.
Okay. I think if those of us who are doing this kind of thing, because there's not a lot of us, we all should join forces.
Share ideas.
You know, there should be networking between these because these are rare experiences. I mean, Clint's Reptiles is the closest thing I've ever seen to what I'm kind of thinking of, where he has, you know, couches and you can hang out and handle the animals and learn about them and see them in their enclosures and stuff like that. But there's not a lot.
There's not a lot. And there's so many different ways for it to be done, so many different ways for it to look. So yeah, like I'm thinking I would still want to do shipping containers like underground to help manage the temperatures. But I would definitely I would have this one for sure hooked up to all the regular utilities. Whereas the house I was telling you about, we will try to run most of it off of solar and the warmth of the soil and all of that. But I'm not going to trust just solely solar with my snakes. So
it seems like you would have a good kind of networking for this kind of stuff already because you've been in the teaching world and you have a lot of access to teachers and parents and kids that you could kind of pull from to bring people into your business, right?
Yes, very much so. And because I think I've always seen neurodivergence in myself. Like my neurodivergent students were always my favorite, and I didn't know why. It was just this easy click for me. And there's a lot of neurodivergence in our household. And so there's definitely connections, plenty of ways where I can do it to build my business, and also plenty of ways where I can do it on a volunteer basis and be able to build up a piece of a community for that little time frame that I'm there. So
I love this. It's a great idea. I'm all for it.
Well, and that's the thing. People who get it are going to get it and be like, this is amazing. Get on it. I'm so excited. And the people who don't are going to,
we can't win every battle.
Yeah, we can't. And for a lot of people, this isn't going to make sense. And that's okay.
We can't win every battle, but we can't not fight the battle. You know, if we build it, they will come, kind of thing.
That has been playing in my head over and over and over. Yes.
Here's the thing is many people don't know they want it until they're in it.
Oh, I know.
So, I see that time and again is like, if you were to ask this person an hour before I've been there, would you like to hold a snake? The answer would absolutely be no. Mm-hmm. And by the end of having it just be there and the interaction happens organically and they just oh, I'm in it, and their world has changed even a little bit. And even that little bit makes a difference.
It does.
Right?
Mhm.
Because it inspires respect and wonder for each other and for the natural world, for the world around them. It feeds the positivity that we need so badly in this world. Whether it's that next time they see a wild snake, they don't want to try and kill it. Even if it's just that, to me, that's a success. Or, wow, something I believed for all this time is false. Now I have to think about that and question some things that I've thought are false. Maybe they're not false. Maybe I need to think about this a little bit more. Get
Yes.
those wheels turning. Maybe I need to look at these people differently.
Mhm.
I think this is really good work.
You just gave me goosebumps. Like, just like it was. So first of all, you said wonder and respect, and that is a beautiful piece that we're missing within our thinking and our being when we are looking at something we don't know or don't understand. We can start with a lot of different filters. Why can't we pick respect and wonder? Like, let's start with respect and wonder and go from there. One of the other things I love about reptiles and snakes is that it made me go, wait a minute, what I had been sold my whole life about these animals was false. Because when I was a teacher, I taught science. We did the scientific method back then, a very, very structured system. But I would always tell my students, people are going to be trying to sell you stuff your whole life, whether it's an idea or a product. Like, people are going to be trying to sell you something, and you need to be paying attention. Watch where the money is going. Watch the language that they use. If they're using really heated language, and we kind of talked about how to do that. But there's been so many subtle ways that we have been sold a false bill of goods that, yes, this for me was just another peeling of life's cloudy onion, maybe, and just removing those proverbial scales from my eyes and going, wait a minute, let me take a look at some other things here.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, it has been lovely to talk with you. I'm so glad we did this. Is there anything you want to share that you didn't yet?
I think people need to understand that owning reptiles, to do it well, is not as easy as sometimes various YouTubers or even online resources make it sound, especially to do it in a way that helps their body receive the nutrients that it needs and all of that. And so I would not go into this if you want an inexpensive hobby, or if you want a hobby that takes zero time, because I'm doing something with my reptiles every day. Especially in the Midwest, when temperatures change, then all of a sudden everybody's enclosures are off. And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought I was nailing this. And so if you want something completely passive and cheap, this isn't it. There's lots of different ways to care for your snake or your reptile. I will leave it at that, but it is not as easy as it sounds. Dialing in those temperatures and the humidity, especially with different styles and qualities of enclosures, there's a lot of trial and error. And I would highly recommend, and no, I never did listen to this and I hate myself for it, but make sure you have those temperatures and humidity dialed in before you put an animal in it.
I really appreciate you saying all that. It does bother me when people are like, this is a one and done and so easy. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And you know what? I don't think I would do it if it were that easy either. When I first started keeping, I was a travesty of a keeper. I didn't know any better.
Right.
I didn't know. There was nothing on there. I didn't even go on the internet. The internet wasn't a thing when I started, and I had no idea. And I look back on that time with a lot of shame. I didn't give them what they needed. And of course, I thought it was easy. now I know differently, and you know, it pains me when I see that online. Oh, these are so easy. Oh, get this and you don't even have to think about it. Oh, beginner, beginner, beginner. And if you want to just get one and just throw your all into one, then do that. Don't get 20. That'll be easier.
Yeah. 1 versus 20 is easier. Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
But getting 20 and making it easy for yourself,
right,
is a different situation. Well, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate what you are working on. I definitely look forward to following up and finding out about how your business takes off, and connecting with you further about that. That's very exciting. Please do be in touch and let me know how that goes. All right.
Will do.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you for all that you're doing. It's wonderful.
If you're interested in following along with Adrienne's journey or getting in touch with her, I've put her YouTube channel and a way to contact her in the description below. I will definitely be following up with her when Awe Nature launches and hopefully going there in person to visit and collaborate with her because I felt such a deep kinship with her story and her mission. I too was scared of snakes and had my world changed when I realized they weren't what I thought they were. I too want more people to have the opportunity to experience the sense of calm that comes from loving and respecting them, to inspire people to learn more about nature and care more for all creatures that we share this planet with. And I too seek to nurture the connection between neurodiversity and reptiles, because it's more clear to me than ever that there are undeniable benefits to both humans and animals within that relationship. Challenging what we think we know about the world leads to minds that are more open and able to see and treat other people and animals with respect. Taking a moment to reflect, to look and listen a little bit closer before placing judgment is a lesson that everyone can benefit from. I'm Shira, and this is Severus Snake, and we'll see you next time for more snake therapy.